because it all comes down to oil. Now, the evaporating fuel deposits have now sent crude oil prices on fire, and for the first time since 2022, prices have crossed the $100 mark, and they continue to breach that mark. And as we speak, what is being said that the oil prices are now swinging around $104 per barrel. Just last week, it had touched almost $120 per barrel. Economies across the world that are now facing the heat threatened by rising inflation and renewed pressure on currencies that has now been put. As far as we'll get you a basic understanding of how these oil prices that have now been affecting when it comes to the global economy. So as of now, Hina, where does the crude oil prices that currently stand when we talk about per barrel pricing?
Well, crude oil prices continue to rise. In fact, Brent even crossed $106 a barrel, because for markets, there is no end in sight to the halt of traffic that we are seeing as far as the Strait of Hormuz is concerned. Now, a couple of important developments that are impacting the crude oil prices right now. One, of course, the attack on Kharg Island by United States of America, which is extremely critical for Iran's oil export. Apart from that, how U.S. President Donald Trump called on other countries to help Washington reopen the Strait of Hormuz, which transports about 1/5 of the global oil supply. Now, to that proposal also, if you see, we have got a muted response. There hasn't been a lot of positive response on that particular front. He appealed to countries like China, Japan, France, UK, etc. And, these are a couple of reasons that are impacting the oil prices right now. And the kind of reactions we are getting from Iran only seem to suggest that, it's going to go on for quite some time as far as the halt in the traffic is concerned. So this is what is leading to a spike in the prices. $106 per barrel it crossed, and right now I think it's around $104 per barrel.
Yes, Brent. So it is being reported up by 1%. Brent, before the market shot, Brent stood at $104.15 per barrel. And the latest rise came after U.S. President Donald Trump called on other countries to help Washington reopen the Strait of Hormuz, which usually transports about 1/5 of the global oil supply. So let's get you as far as when it comes to this seesaw has been the kind of graph that has now been witnessed ever since when it comes to the oil prices when the war began, and currently as it is now standing as of now. So on the 9th of March is when one of the highest spikes that was witnessed around $114.3 per barrel came down slightly to 89, then 86, then went up again to 100, 102, currently at 104 as it is being reported, and in the middle somewhere it almost touched $119, $120 per barrel. Well, that has been there as the markets that usually run on sentiments and statements there. But currently at the point of view, Srinjoy, when we speak of President Trump, he has now been appealing to other countries that please come and help police the Strait of Hormuz. But there was also an assurance previously that came from his side that the U.S. Navy will help escort the vessels that have been stranded at sea. What really changed in the last few days?
Well, first of all, it's a very difficult military situation. Now, the Straits of Hormuz is very narrow, and there are enough Iranian military missiles and drones that can target ships going in and out. Now, sometimes it's harder to even for military vessels, warships, because a warship has radar, has guns, has missiles on board. And if in some ways, if a drone hits a super tanker, it may cause less damage. But the important point to note is that the Iranians have been saying that, look, if there is war, we will close the Straits of Hormuz. It's something they said even before the war began. So if that is so, this should have been factored in. The fact that the Straits of Hormuz can be closed, Straits of Hormuz is where 20% of the world's crude supplies and LNG goes through. So all of that should have been factored in. That's really the first point. Now that the straits have been closed or largely closed, then what happens?
Yes.
First, the president spoke about American warships to do the kind of escort duties that were necessary. But that hasn't happened. Then he's asked China, Japan, Korea, Britain, France. Again, we don't see warships of these countries close to the Straits of Hormuz at this point. So as a result, the only solution appears to be what S. Jaishankar has said. Diplomacy, discussions, debate, and perhaps that's the way the Straits of Hormuz can open.
So let me also bring in Ashesha, who's joining us here on the broadcast. Ashesha, good morning. Can you help us understand the market sentiments there, especially with relation to Brent crude oil? Last that we see it's been continuously oscillating between $100 per barrel to even touching sky high of 119. Currently standing at 104. What does it mean in the coming days? And when it comes to this kind of volatility in the markets that is now being seen?
Well, yes, so the oil market has been in focus for the last several trading sessions, and that continues today as well, with Brent crude now trading at $102.8 per barrel. It has slipped 0.3% today. Remember, it has snapped its 3-day gaining streak in today's trading session. But remember, when the Strait of Hormuz and the news about its closure first broke, Brent crude had climbed to $119.5 per barrel. That's the kind of spike that we have seen off late. It has cooled off a tad bit. It fell below $100 per barrel a few days back, but now it has jumped back because tensions in West Asia continue to escalate. There is no relief whatsoever when it comes to tensions in West Asia. Iran says that crude flows are continuing from Kharg Island despite attacks by US over the weekend, and President Donald Trump has now raised pressure on nations to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. So there's a lot of uncertainty in the global market, but for now, Brent crude is trading at $103 per barrel.
All right, Ashesha, thank you very much for that update, where Trump's proposal that seems to have received muted response so far, with none of the countries he appealed to by name, including China, Japan, France, and the UK, publicly committing to deploying their navies to the critical waterway, which is the Strait of Hormuz. Thank you very much, Rinja, for that update. We'll be heading into a very short break. Back with more news and updates on the other side.